You know, of all the silly things that happened this year, one thing that I'm really appreciative of is this trend of PC games getting cheaper. Not in the sense that they're losing value, but in the sense that they're slashing prices. And a lot of independent developers take that notion to the extreme and release their first few games for free. A lot of them are pretty good, and well, most of them are pretty forgettable, but like in any other scene, the cream rises to the top, and there are publications that pick out the diamonds from the rough. And I'm going to try to take a stab at that and pick out a few myself. There is no financial barrier to playing these games, so you can't as easily skip over the ones you haven't played before arguing with me in the comments section. And I'm going to try to include annotation links on every entry, so if you want to have one hell of an evening, then you can go through these games as I go through them and play them as they come up. And since they're all free, I'm actually really interested in seeing what everyone has to think about them after checking them out for themselves. I'm particularly interested in seeing what kind of crazy reaction I get for number 10. Now I hear you asking, George, what is a Porpentine anyway? Well, my friends, Porpentine is a dystopic cyberpunk vision of a ruined alternative universe. It's a self-destructive cycle of high-tech entrapment. It's transformative alien body horror. It's a sticky, viscous fluid, and, well, what Porpentine really is the persona of a game developer cum artist who has spun up a web of stylish interactive fiction. And these things are as bizarre and impenetrable as they are subtle and thoughtful. Crystal Warrior Keisha and All I Want Is for All of My Friends to Become Insanely Powerful are completely indulgent stream of consciousness oddities. Howling Dogs and Ultra Business Tycoon 3, which is my favorite one, are much less noisy in style but may give you a lot more to think about once they're over. If you want to experience a self-contained gaming scene that is totally untouched by convention, then I highly recommend checking this stuff out. You're in for one hell of a trip. In this game, you can piss in toilets, you can piss out of toilets, you can piss on TV sets and on holes in the ground and on pilgrims and Cliff Bleszinski, and pretty much anything. But you probably shouldn't, because piss is an important resource in the game's economy, and you don't want to piss all your money away. Crypt Worlds is a scatological trade sim with a lot of creepy, surrealistic dungeons to explore. It evokes what Majora's Mask would look like, as imagined by a drug-addled, hallucinating piss fetishist going through withdrawals. There's also like a really hipster, anti-consumerist sentiment going on, or something. I don't really know, and I don't get it, but that's okay. I guess one way to explain how it works and why I like it is to just say that Crypt Worlds is like a safer alternative to doing acid. How could the medium that creates this not be considered art? I have no idea how a snickering faux art collective managed to buy out the official Bubsy 3D domain and put this up, but they sure did the rest of us a great service. Bubsy is back with his friends in an exciting new tale about friendship, fun, and having faith. For the low price of $0.30, your family can join Bubsy on a rollicking adventure as he learns about life, love, and himself. Did you know that back in 2010, Ian Bogost made a game called Cow Clicker, in which you clicked on a cow once every 6 hours? You could pay money to click on more cows or click on a different cow, and eventually he had to shut it down because people were actually paying a lot of money for it, and that weirded him out way too much. Or something like that. What does this have to do with Candy Box? Well, Candy Box starts by taking that initial premise of the social game parody and gradually evolves it into a classic dice-rolling RPG adventure, complete with NPCs and epic quests and a complicated inventory system. The tantalizing promise of there being something interesting at the end is only held back by the agonizing truth that you have to waste away the precious free time you have before your death to be able to click on the candies that eventually get you there. When we think of horror games, we usually think of a dark, oppressive atmosphere or deliberately slow and clumsy controls and a sense of unpredictability and paranoia. And the reason why I like this little Lakeview Cabin game is because it subverts all of those qualities of horror while making a fairly traditional horror game all of its own. It begins as a quirky, interactive toy box with a dark sense of humor and gratuitous pixel nudity, but it gradually turns into an emergent slasher nightmare about panicking through desperate item combinations. It's surprising that this is one of the few real horror comedy games out there, and for that, it's unique and clever enough to deserve an hour or two of your precious time. Last year, Super Hexagon came out and showed us just how much you can do with a game where all you can do is move left and right. Simple, arcade-style elegance has been all the rage afterwards, and leading the charge is none other than Sound Dodger, in which you dodge your mouse cursor around obstacles and do absolutely nothing else. It takes a few levels to get going, but once it does, you'll be amazed at how many tricks it can pull out of that one simple concept. And it's a great visual effect. At its best moments, you'll be dancing your cursor with the music, rather than dodging it against the music. Seizure warning, seizure warning. This whole game is like Seizure Warning, the game. Accelerator is yet another dodging game following in the wake of Hexagon, and I'm tempted to rate it higher than Sound Dodger because there's some kind of primitive thrill to first-person speed that just gets me way more tweaked out than 2D stuff. All you gotta do in this game is dodge anything you see, and if you do, you'll go fast. Really fast, increasingly fast. You will go faster and faster until you can't dodge anymore. And when you look away from the screen, suddenly real life will move in slow motion for a few seconds until your brain readjusts. Much like Super Hexagon, it's strangely compelling to want to be good at this game. That must mean it's doing something right. I could easily imagine finding this game squeezed in an old early 80s vector graphics cabinet, somewhere in an arcade corner between Star Wars, Polybius, and Tempest, maybe with a novelty head-mounted display, so that way you won't look as stupid while drooling and staring deep into a screen 2 inches away from your face, cause that's what you're gonna do anyway.
Super hot, super hot.
This game distills all of the appeal of the Matrix into one 15-minute bullet time power trip. Time moves when you do. You have melee disarms and pixel-perfect accuracy, but ammo runs out fast and everyone dies in one hit. You're a terrifying gun-toting Time Lord, but it's not all run and gun. That movement-activated bullet time ends up turning it into a graceful dance between action and puzzle. This free concept game is short, but it holds a lot of potential for a bigger release, which is exactly what the team is working on right now. Westurato is way more exciting, beautiful, and replayable than it has any right to be. It's sometimes gorgeous to look at, the music is iconic and wistful, and the game behind the art is brave and ambitious. And it's built around a world design and quest structure that feels a lot like the early Fallouts. There's just one simple goal that ends the main quest, and you know what it is right away, but there's a vast western desert filled with faction quests and little exploratory distractions that gradually uncover your way there. Just like the western frontier itself, this game is open-ended and free. It's rugged and tough around the edges, and it doesn't give a damn about good or evil. No matter how many times you play, you're probably gonna have to do something you don't want to do for someone you don't like. But seeing just how many different ways these factions can play out is half the fun. And that's also the reason why death is permanent. Unlike the other games on this list, Data Jack is something that can legitimately suck you in for days. The ambition and scope of this game comes so close to a commercial release that it's unbelievable to think that it's free. Data Jack is an isometric action RPG with real-time gameplay that plays kinda like Syndicate while channeling the contemporary cyberpunk of Deus Ex by way of the humor and gore of Fallout, and I'm sorry, did I just describe a picture-perfect marriage of all the best PC games ever? 'Cause that's awfully close to what this is. There's 24 stealthy missions that all have multiple pathways through them, thanks to some very generous hacking options and some brutally difficult sneaking options. There's an extensive upgrade tree of body augmentations and weapon mods and fully destructible levels, so no matter how you play, there's no way you can see it all your first time through. But a game so big, ambitious, and free has to compromise somehow, and thankfully that comes in the form of glitches and balance rather than a lack of gameplay. The collision detection is really wonky, and the early levels are a 90-degree difficulty wall, and there's a necessarily complicated interface, but the ends justify the means. You just don't see a game this ambitious and big come out for free. But that happened, and that kind of blows my mind. At the low price of $0, there's no reason not to give this game some love.